Good evening, friends. Welcome you all to the fourth series of Aakanksha Talk. Today we have with us Mr. Amit Kumar. He is joining from United States of America. Uh, Along with we have with us our respected Dean Madam, Professor Madhulika Agrawal, and along with Professor Sasikant Misra sir from Department of Mathematics, and he is the student advisor of Institute of Science. So before proceeding the meeting, I will like to invite Professor Sasikant Misra sir for his welcome address. Sir, please.
आप सबको बहुत बहुत नमस्कार। स्पेशली अमित कुमार जी को, मैडम को और सारे बच्चों के लिए एक एग्जाम्पल भी है अमित कुमार जी कि इन्हीं टेबल कुर्सियों पे बैठ के आप भी कभी पढ़े थे, बीएचयू के स्टूडेंट थे और अभी अमेरिका में काफ़ी ऊंचे पदों पे हैं। इसका आप लोग ऑनलाइन हेल्प ले रहे हो, है ना, वेबएक्स का। सो इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ ये आप लोगों के लिए एक रोल मॉडल हो सकते हैं। देखिए इनको, सीखिए इनसे, यही मेरी कामना है। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं यहाँ से हट जाता हूँ।
So before uh, proceeding to our Honorable Dean Madam, I would like to briefly introduce our speaker, who is our own alumnus. He has graduated from Faculty of Science in BSc Statistics in 1996, and he has completed his Master of Computer Application in 2000. Now he is working as a principal engineer in Cisco system at United States of America from October 2018. Before that, he was working as a technical director in River Bay Technology from 2016 to 18. Along with this, he has a wide range of experience in working Adobe, Oracle, Gensa technology. So uh, I can summarize his 21 year of professional experience in the information technology industry. He has set up and managed and led geographically distributed architecture and engineering teams delivering in high quality products and solutions in IT industry. His experience has been largely in infrastructure automation, network service, orchestration, fulfillment, and management. He has a very dedicated passion and experience in modern software tools and platform. So he has the experience to work with this annual youth festival that is Aakanksha, and today we'll listen to him about his social experience. I have heard that he was most social during his time, so therefore he's talking today about the topic, what is the importance of being social. So now I would like to invite our Honorable Dean Madam to briefly address the audience. Please, Madam.
So a very good evening to dear students, Professor Mishra, Amia Samal, and a very good morning to Amit Kumar. It's really very great to be part of this lecture series all the time and seeing our own products of our own Institute of Science who are excelling in their field, not only in our own country but abroad also. You all will agree with me that the name and fame this country, our country, India, is getting abroad, especially in United States of America, is because of, many such professionals in the IT sectors. They are in very top positions, and wherever they are, in whatever position, They are doing very sincere work and putting it their efforts to get the best in that particular sector. I'm very happy that to know that he used to be the part of this university from 1993 to 2000, when this Aakanksha program started or conceptualized in the Faculty of Science, and he did a lot, for that particular program, which he will narrate to the audience, especially those who are still, taking up the same Aakanksha in a different view. Despite, it's a Corona period, and lot of activities cannot be performed in person. They are doing off the stage as well as on the stage, and we are going to organize a closing function tomorrow, especially for activities. But this kind of lectures which Amit Kumar is giving, or many others have given, this will continue, I hope, Dr. Amia Saman. And so it is very good to see you. And we always feel, of course, I teach biological science, but I am the part of this university since very long time. That is from 1984 onwards. So whomsoever will be talking about Aakanksha, I'm sure I will able to, recognize. So when I'm seeing you, Amit, it looks like I have seen you several times. So most welcome for the in this program from your own Institute of Science, and we are really very thankful from the Institute of Science, Faculty of Science, on my own behalf and on behalf of my all students who are participating or not participating, for your this kind gesture that you are going to talk about the importance of being very social. And it is going to be very interesting, because those who are very social, they are very light. They are always feel very light. They are even having a lot of work to do, even they have a lot of problems, but still, they can feel very light, because they are very social. They used to discuss their problems, or not to all. They are able to understand that who are the real one to whom I should be, sharing my own things or not. But they are ready to share others' problems. That is the best part of being social. So once again, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I welcome, on behalf of all of us, Dr. Amit Kumar. Thanks. So over to you, Amia Saman.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Now I will request Amit sir to start his talk. So
Perfect.
please.
Thank you, Dr. Amia. Thank you, Dean ma'am, and thank you, Sashikant sir. It's a privilege, my privilege, to be on this stage, to kind of share my experiences, what I have gone through, and how did I turn social, and what is the importance of being social. Definitely, before I go there, I would like to say that the way this Akanksha program has been carried forward since its foundation, I'm amazed by the effort. Not only the organizers or Dr. Amia or all the faculty members are putting, but also kudos to the students who are actually actively participating into this program and making it successful every year after year. I can see that how this is becoming more and more engaging and more advantageous for everybody. This is one example of being social. So, so thank you. And with that, I welcome all the students. Dear students, you're here to not only listen to me, and don't consider this as a lecture. It's just a life lesson that I have learned so far, being 21 years and over 21 years in this IT industry. I'm tempted to talk about IT, but then I will not. I'll try to avoid those jargons and things like that that is used. But then, in general, how do we want to be social? what are the obstacles that we face, starting from our childhood up until the teenage, and then growing adult, and then after becoming a professional. And how do you cope up with those surroundings to be called, tagged as being social? So with that, I have few slides to share. I'm one of the persons who likes to show while I talk, and so I try to prepare a few presentation slides. I'm not sure how the students are going to be viewing it, but then certainly I see them on the WebEx, so they should be able to see that. Now, thank you, Dr. Mishra, to recognize that WebEx is Cisco's product. And in fact, coincidentally, I'm part of that group which manages the product itself. I'm part of the Cisco cloud security group, and I work there as a kind of a director for architecture or principal engineer, you might say. And I look after some of the IT distributed at scale architecture in the cloud for running our software applications, WebEx being one. So with that, let me share again a very good morning. Be at your seat, try to listen and follow, and also I'll encourage a lot of questions because one way communication is not a good enough communication to me. So while I talk about my experiences, I would like to learn from you if you have some varying opinion about what I'm sharing or a different experience than what I had been through. All right, with that, let me see if I can share my slides. Okay, can everyone see the slides?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, going directly into the conversation of being social, what I would introduce is I'll start with a boy's story who was named Samir Kumar Sinha. He was a fifth standard, and then he was somehow inspired by the person who used to come or ranked as number one in the class. This student, Samir Kumar Sinha, was coming from a family who had everybody educated. Everybody was educated in the family, and in fact, his mother was a school teacher, government school teacher. Then comes this person who always comes number one in the class. His name was Amit Kumar Singh, and then this boy Samir thought for a moment that can I get the same attention that Amit Kumar Singh is getting? And in a way, it was kind of the intent there was a kind of a mistaken identity, so that the boy Samir gets more attention and kind of becomes similar to what Amit Kumar Singh, who was the top ranker, was. And so Samir writes an application, forges his father's signature, submits an application to the principal and says Samir wants to change his name to Amit Kumar and kind of missed the last name or the surname because that was a debatable thing. So he asks the principal, can you change my name to Amit Kumar? There was no justification or reason asked by the principal because the principal was that boy's father's friend. And so the name was changed in the school. It was elementary and kind of middle school. That's why there was no questions asked, no certification, and no proof of no form filling and everything. It was a simple application that was submitted and it was approved. And follow that with 6 months of time period. And after that, this boy, Amit Kumar, became the top ranker in the class. And he started to get the attention that he wanted to, with so many people asking for notes, asking for, can you share your copy with me, and things like that. So he started getting the attention which he intended to get. So even though there was wrong deeds done to achieve that goal or intention, this person got that attention, right? And the behavior he accompanied was kind of start living with that person who used to come first, right? And here I am. My name is Amit Kumar now. I used to be Samir Kumar Sinha in the past. But then what I followed was be around that Amit Kumar Singh, who was the first ranker in the class, try to learn from him what he does on a daily basis. Probably I didn't follow every step that he used to follow, but then the result was a good result, even though the steps or the behavior I executed to achieve this goal were probably wrong at that time. I was a child, so didn't know. So this was around being around the time period when I was a child. So now you know that I went through a name change. Moving on. So now that I'm getting attention in the class, every time I'm first in the class, and then there were problems that followed. One, of course, was when you start getting attention, you are always kind of insecure in terms of how do I retain that attention? How do I continue to retain that attention? And there are other problems followed. The name is alphabetically starting from A, so you become the roll number 1 or 2, maybe 3 maximum. And each time there is an exam or a viva or a question, you are asked to answer that, right? You are supposed to sit on the first row, in the first row in the bench, on the bench. And then that's when things get a little tricky because I didn't know all the answers that are going to be asked in the class. And so when I moved from my 10th grade to 11th grade, which was a CBSE board, there was no, it was an English medium school. I was previously studying in a complete Hindi medium, and there was a barrier for me to even talk to my classmates, own classmates, because English was something that I hadn't spoken before. All the terminologies that were used were just, uh, in Hindi, even, Parimay Sankhya, rational, irrational, all of those were kind of terminologies used in Hindi. And I had this barrier of communication with my own classmates. And this transition was quite a difficult one. So 11th and close to the end of 12th grade, I didn't speak to anyone of my classmates. That was a challenge. Of course, the result was that I became introvert. Prior to that, I was quite friendly, quite social, quite talking, quite engaging. But then here comes 11th and 12th grade, just because of the language barrier, I ended up being kind of an introvert who is actually hiding his face almost all the time, not trying to interact, not trying to engage with any one of the friends. And then 70% of the time I became the listener, right? Rest 20% I'm thinking, and talking was just 10%. That too during the assembly when the school is opening up or closing. And that is when I used to interact. And the maximum things that I used to say is, can I stand in front of you or can I stand behind you? Usually, I requested my friends to move forward and go for myself to go back. With that, there are perceptions formed. The perceptions are, either I'm an arrogant one or I'm kind of, can be ignored. I don't exist because I'm not talking, I'm not engaging, I'm not, being friends. So what I did during that time period, though, was since I was kind of good at studies, I focused on uh, English as a language. And then I tried to improve, but then having to improve English, spoken English, was a difficult one for me. So I focused on the writing one because in the examination, I'm going to be marked for the writing skills, not the reading skills, not the oral skills. And so at the end of my 12th grade, I was the rank 1 student in the final exams, including the language called English. And I realized to myself that, yes, I can do it. And after the school, all the classmates that I had never interacted with. Many of them became my friends. So the learning here is, of course, there are quite a few actually in this one. Being an introvert is not a choice. It just happens. You won't even realize. Listening is a really good trait of being social, but then 70% of the time, listening is not a good trait. You have to strike a balance between listening and talking and, speaking, observing, and things like that. So, anyways, I was able to overcome the language barrier in terms of written skills, but still I was practicing the oral skills to be able to engaging more. And after the 12th grade, like anyone else, during those times, I started preparing for engineering for a couple of years. I went to Lucknow to get this coaching about IT, getting into IIT and things like that. So before I talk about the next slide, a small story that is from Lucknow days. Uh, from my home where I used to live to the coaching center, this is location A to location B, I used to ride bicycle and try to go attend the coaching there. What happened during that time was, how do I kind of remember the path? I was new to Lucknow, and the day I landed there, I had to visit hospitals because there were relatives that were admitted in the hospital and things like that. So I didn't get time to kind of explore the path to my coaching center. And here I am after a week just getting to my coaching center. And I thought to myself, how do I remember the path from A to B, basically from home to the coaching center? And again, as a growing teen, I thought, okay, it is really good if I can remember the billboards along the way when I'm traveling from my home to the coaching center. I will try to remember the billboards and the posters that are kind of hanging. Lucknow was a big city, and most of these were either movie posters, pictures which are running, and some of the advertising boards. I used to follow those and try to remember the path. Guess what? uh, no surprises. Every week the picture changes, the movie changes. Right, there is a new release of movie every week, and those posters are replaced by something else, and I was like clueless. Of course, I used to lose my way to my coaching center and sometimes miss it. What could I have done better there? Now that I think of it, of course, the easier way for me was to kind of open up, stop at some place if I feel lost, ask people. That is something I was trying to hide. I was not engaging. I had become this introvert who doesn't want to face people and kind of go engage with them, ask them, okay, for help. I never did that during those times. So that was a learning. If this story brings a smile to your face, then I'm pretty sure you're thinking that, yes, I have done that. And if you have done that, certainly connect to me offline, and we can talk about who was this person who came up with this idea saying, okay, we will release movies every week. So let's work on it together and find that person. I'm still looking for one. All right, so moving on. This one touches slightly towards how and when Aakanksha and things like that came into picture. But then, if you're looking at this slide, this is kind of on the funny side. I try to portray this on the funny side. So IIT engineering, I realized just by losing that path and all that in Lucknow that this is not my cup of tea. I cannot do it. Kind of. Given that, when I appear for an exam, maximum I start to count, right? How many questions did I solve? And then maximum I used to see that I'll get in the physics, I'll get 8. or in math I'll get 10. And I was less focused, and also I was not asking for help at all. So one of the learnings for being social, of course, another one is to ask for help. It is There are plenty of people you are surrounded with who are ready to help, who have the knowledge to help, who have the skills to help. So don't hesitate, ask for help. All right. When I moved to BHU in 1993, my 12th grade was 1991, and 1993, again, this is a bigger problem compared to my 12th grade. 12th grade, that was a local in Dehri on Son, the township called Dehri on Son. Somewhat we knew the culture of that place. So everybody and anybody who was my classmate, we kind of knew their behavior in some ways. But then moving into the college, this one has students from very different places, very different languages that they have spoken, very different culture that they have experienced. Right now, all of them are part of my curriculum that I'm studying. I studied physics, math, statistics honors in graduation, and so I was into a bigger pond or ocean wherein I had to navigate my way through to become social again, being that introvert in 12th grade. All right. So the problems were students from different places. Many of them already had friends because, if they are coming from people places like Jamshedpur or a bigger kind of a metro, quote unquote, suburban areas, they already had few friends, and many of them joined VHU. And so they kind of had a closed group and things like that. Now, that challenge I knew how to overcome. However, I did not know how to overcome this cultural disbalance that suddenly I'm introduced to. And of course, not having to crack IIT or any of the engineering exams, I had this inferiority complex. And even before striking a conversation, I have this perception or image of that person who I'm going to talk to, that this person definitely attempted engineering and probably succeeded in some, but made a choice to come to BHU. Excuse me. So now, as part of my effort to become friends with these people, or form strike some conversation, form a kind of a group wherein I'm able to share my problems and seek help from these people around me. And again, in our childhood, our parents tell us that don't fall in bad company. So that was another fear injected by some people, some seniors, some relatives, and excuse me. And that problem is a bigger problem to handle because I don't know the definition of bad company till date, uh, right? And nobody told us what was the definition of a bad company, being in a bad company. In general, it is talk that don't get into alcohol, drugs, and things like that. But there was no definition of a bad company. What did I do going forward? As you can see on the funny side, there are few things that I could not hide. There are a few things which I could not, advise or suggest. There are a few things that I could not tell or share. And the common bit was this nahi aata thing. And this is basically I love this particular one because this is a copy of somebody posted a Venn diagram of from a song called uh, it was, I think, from Bajigar. Okay, so moving on. How did I solve that problem in my college days? I started talking about music. That was one of the interest, or probably the common interest. And the reason music became one of the conversations was because many of the people around me were artistic. Uh, you know, more than science, even though their aspirations was to become a science graduate. They had some form of art and creativity. Now, games, uh, card games, fun activities, and other things I started to, just to remove this barrier of communication with those people, and many of them became my friends, including some of you who are alumni, who have founded Aakanksha, and many of you who have excelled in your career. Many of those are founders of some companies. You must have heard them talk, like Prafulla, like Nilesh, like Sashank Upadhyay, like Amrish Chandra. Those people have achieved really good feat. And so I started doing this engaging, and now I suddenly start to feel that yes, I'm becoming social in some ways. And the outcome, other things I started to do was, let's do a group study. I was almost never in my room in the hostel. I was almost always during the daytime sitting on a tea shop, or maybe sitting in somebody else's room. Often in the night, I used to sleep in my friends' rooms. And that gave me some opportunities to talk to these people, understand their mindset. And the moment I feel that there is a trust that is being built, I started to share my problems. Again, most of the problems used to be for these students that I couldn't qualify in IIT, right? Because that is one thing that was common. Most of the people joined PhD graduation or BS course, maybe because they missed their exams for engineering, or they did not qualify for that. And so this was a common grief that everybody had, common pain point, right? Common strength, where that they have understood how to fail and achieve, even though it's a smaller success, achieve a success to qualify for BHU graduation, right? There used to be an entrance test and things like that. At the same time, what I tried to do was I tried to identify mentors, and these mentors are not necessarily my a big influencing person outside the campus, but then within the campus, I started identifying those mentors. Some of those were my friends, colleagues, and some of those were professors, teachers in the university. Most often, we start talking about education or academics or things like that to our teacher. But then, trust me, some of the teachers, you can go to and talk to about your social behavior related things. You can be open about your identification to your teacher, and they are the best one to guide you through your career or your journey to education, by understanding you in a better way, not just by your academics, but then also scaling you or marking you on your behavioral aspects. So they are the guide when you are away from your parents. And few best guides are your friends, the influencing friends that you have around in your hostel or in your university. Nevertheless, the outcome of finding this common thing that was uncommon, and the common thing became this music, game, fun activities, and things like that, which is not so uncommon. Many people have this music and cultural background. The outcome of that was Akanksha was formed. I was one of the initial ones who viewed Akanksha as a platform that further can enhance my own self, own behavioral aspects and social aspects, to become that guy who can be, sharing his experiences, not only in terms of music and culture, but also in terms of academics. And hence, Akanksha became that platform, which thankfully has become really, really big in today's date. And I'm really, really glad to hear the progress Akanksha has made as a platform, as a forum. So when we talk about social platforms, I think of Aakanksha as social platforms. Other things like the Facebook and all these WhatsApp and other things that you see in the technology area today, those are outcome of a business. They did a really wonderful job of connecting people, but then they don't teach you behavioral aspects at all. In Akanksha, some of those being social, how to be a good social comes into play. Akanksha is one of those platforms where you showcase those skills and things like that. All right, moving on. The interesting bit comes into play here, right? So I'm doing graduation here in BHU. I'm doing physics, math, statistics. And so there is learning I want to carry from each one of those on top of the learning that I got from my parents and my relatives, my seniors, and my teachers and everybody else, right? And I tried to distinguish because I was getting into this teen age, growing teen, growing adult towards adulthood. I wanted to analyze myself, right? And in order to do that, I was trying to see what is the noise for me and what is my echo says. Echo in the sense that self thing, when my voice reflected against some solid object, and then coming back to me and saying, "Oh, no, I should do this." And on the left side in this slide, you see the noise. Many of you may not agree that these are noise, but then I'll give you a few examples that will make you think that it may be a noise for you, not necessarily for everybody. So here I'm studying in physics law of attraction, right? Law of inertia. These Coulomb's law, for example, negative, positive attract. Law of magnetism, which says south and north pole, attract each other. Law of inertia is like, okay, stay at rest unless until some external forces pushes you to move, right? So this is about physics. But then I'm thinking to myself, why do my parents or some of the good influencing people tell that be with the like-minded people? So like attracts like. Why is that? This is a contradiction, right? And I started thinking and trying to come up with these contradictions more often than not. And the result was I could draw some of the things that I want to carry forward and some of the things I want to drop as being the self echo and that self analysis thing. Now, mathematics, I studied mathematical induction that says, okay, if the of given formula is true for a value 1 and true for value n, then it is true for value n plus 1. I literally took that and said, okay, if one person can become a CEO of a company, for example, and n person, of course, there are n number of CEOs in this world, then I can be the CEO of some company someday, if not today. Certainly, that's a good inference to draw, but they're not necessarily true. And I'll try to eliminate some of these on the right side, why they were a problem at that time. Then comes Boolean algebra, which talks about, anything and everything is true and false. And yet I'm seeing questions in some of the exams that talk about none of the above or all of the above, right? Or I myself in doubt at that point in time. What do I say? Yes or no? I'm in doubt. So there is a state which says I'm in doubt, right? So why am I studying this Boolean algebra thing? Statistical hypothesis, for example, it talked about assume something and prove through alternative hypothesis that that assumption is wrong. And I'm saying, okay, if I can assume something, I'll assume that I'm the best. And then these are the physics, math, stat thing, and then the other things came in. Dreaming big was one of my favorite ones. When people used to say dreaming big, I literally used to counter them by saying, okay, so in order for me to dream big, I need to sleep more. And then suddenly somebody else changes their dream big thing after hearing this counter, saying, okay, dream big with open eyes. Again, these were noises for me. These were confusing me. I was in a state of complete confusion. What do I do? Without knowing the whys of all of these, I was a total, mess at that point in time. People said, focus on your goals, focus on your interest. And I'm here thinking, okay, yesterday my interest was something else. Today my interest is something different, right? When I was a child, my interest was go out and play. When I was in 11th, 12th grade, my only interest was study, because the rest everything I'm separated from. And here people are saying, find your interest. When does that happen? When do I do that? So all of these became noise for me while I was growing adult in college. And then when I processed through my self echo, these are the things I extracted and said, these are true for me. Let me just focus on these. Rest everything is noise. Uh, Unfortunately, in none of the academics, we are taught how to, perceive or interpret these statements that come out of from your parents, from your sometimes teachers, sometimes friends. You don't or relatives. You don't realize like why. Some people said that focus on your goal, but then how? Why? Right? Dream big. How? Nobody taught me how to dream big. Uh, if there were tools that were given to me, then of course I'll employ those tools, use those tools to dream big. But then, to my mind, nothing made sense at that point in time. Anyways, I came up with inferences and became lazy, and said, okay, like attracts like. This is true for me, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be surrounded by like-minded people. Then, like common interests were, of course, music, games, and at times porn, at times what you call skating. Uh, Staying at rest became my favorite thing. I had this influence of statistics in so many good ways that I used to talk statistics in terms of when somebody asked me, "Did you appear for this exam?" Yes, I did. And then, how did it go? I would say it went really well. And then they would ask follow up. Of course, the follow up question in those times were, "So, what are the chances?" Before, what are the chances, they would ask, like, will you be selected? And my answer used to be probably. That's how I was living statistics. And at times, the parents, my parents used to ask, what are the chances? And so I am instilling statistics into them as well, right? In a way. So I drew these inferences. Some of these are wrong, but then I started living a life in BHU, which is a comfortable life, right? I went into my own comfort zone saying, I will rest. There is no goals, nothing, because all of these noises are confusing me. I'm not going to do anything in life because I know I can do anything in life unless proven otherwise. Right? So I became kind of a person who is lazy. Anyway, so graduation is done. After the graduation, I joined the statistics masters, but then that was just a formality. And also because I had this mentor in a teacher, a professor, Dr. Umesh Singh, who used to motivate me and tell me that, I am capable of qualifying something like UPPSC and things like that, because my statistics side was a little better than compared to other candidates maybe he was teaching. And he used to ask me to solve statistics books, go to the library, study statistics more, mostly sampling and distribution thing. And because that is where the questions used to be in UPPSC and things like that. But statistics aside, I had no professional, I was thinking to myself, how do I become professional? How do I earn, basically, right? I was kind of trying to find out what am I good at, you know, uh, what does this world need, and also how do I get paid for what do I do, right? And I had no clue what to do. So professional courses and things like that. Then I started doing the self-identification. Who am I? Right? Again, these are words I can say now. In those times when I was doing the self-identification, I did not know, even though from inside it were the same things, but then these words were not the exact words, right? So find a rebel in the neighborhood. this is a very this is one of my favorite ones. Rebels in here is not in negative terms. It is to indicate that, you know, people who are excelling in what they're doing. And neighborhood, of course, means you might have heard this saying that Bhagat Singh should be born. I wish Bhagat Singh must be born, but then not in my home. You know, they should be in the neighborhood. Those are the saying that I grew up with. And of course, there was no one to go in my own home. There were all the engineers and everybody there were the pressure saying, why didn't you become an engineer? Doing simple graduation, go prepare for engineering again. You will succeed probably. I was not able to, and I didn't want to focus in that area again. So I started finding the rebels who are going to help me moving out of this graduation and then getting into some kind of a professional curriculum, which is going to pay me when I do my service. So those rebels I gladly found in my seniors. Some of them went for this masters in business administration. Some of them became, computer scientists. So some of them became, government. They joined government services at a very high rank, like CBIs and things like that. So those are the influencers I started looking for while I am in the campus, for them to help me navigate my own or kind of identify myself. Uh, the other trait I identified was it is important to develop like-mindedness. For example, I want to see if I believe that my thoughts are the best thoughts or my thoughts are good thoughts, it needs to be replicated in other people as well. So I started injecting that thinking process into my friends, right? And the moment it resonates with my friends, definitely they are like-minded with me. So I started developing this like-mindedness, right? And then again, emotional intelligence is really critical one for the being a social element in the society. Social awareness is another one, and continuous learning is something I realized that I have to. Right, every stage of my life, I have to continue to learn. Maybe new things, maybe enhanced skills acquired using the same thing that I'm doing. Uh, and then I also realized that life is not a mathematical induction. If something is true for n number of people and n plus one, then it may not be true for me. I can't do everything in this world. I have to narrow it down or funnel it down to certain domains which I can be good at, which pays me back, which requires attention, and maybe I can be that one attention. People used to say that be the change, and nobody taught how to be that change. And so I was trying to self-identify myself, and these were the stages I went through. Now self-shaping, once I have this identity, how do I shape myself? And I realized I was good at asking questions like why. I was good in contradiction theory. When somebody says something, I sometimes purposely disagree and then go research about it and come back and say, you know what, you were right, now I agree. Or say that no, I have a different idea or perception about it. So I came up with this again. This is not how I laid out my conversation when I was in the college, but then this is a learning over a period of time that I have went through in my professional career as well. So these pictures and the talk here represents all those learnings in some ways. So self-shaping is about, I could understand only these four basic shapes, 5 basic shapes. I don't know what cylinder is, I don't know, what octagon is. I don't know how to represent things in rhombus and things like that, because those are odd shapes. The symmetrical shapes that are basic are here: triangle, circle, rectangle, and square. And of course, a line. Now, if I try to represent things in the triangle, I call this as a quest triangle. And if you notice, this is an equilateral one. Of course, I'm not here to teach you mathematics because the professors there are doing a really wonderful job, and I might confuse you. But then here the idea is to share that You need to ask, you need to find out what do you want to do. Be it anything. What do you want to do? And then you need to lay it out. Once you decide this is what I want to do, you need to lay it out. How do you want to do? But then the most important aspect is why do you want to do that? Right? It's only you who can define why. Other people, your friends and other people may add some value to it by saying, oh, this is why you should do it. Once they have realized that these are your strengths and weaknesses, but then it's you who has to say that this is why I want to do it, right? And again, this is one part of the social strength, that in order to extract or find out what, how, why, it doesn't come from within, right? Courage, for example, doesn't come from within. I have heard this dam hai to ye kar le. That courage doesn't come from within. The courage is from the encouragement that comes from your surrounding. And in fact, in the corporate world, you will seldom hear the word courage, but you will most often hear the word encourage, right? Encouragement doesn't come from within. I can't encourage myself. Somebody else encourages me. What that means is they are recognizing my strengths and grooming me and trying to see me at a certain place, or to see me doing something, and that something is what? At the same time, they are able to help me, and all the, when I say they, these are friends, family, mentors, influencers, and those people, right? If you want to be a millionaire, you have to be with around a millionaire at least. You have to understand the process that they go through. If the result is what you want to achieve, that I want to be a millionaire, you have to follow the process, right? And you have to kind of comply by the process of difficult work that they do. If that difficult work doesn't work for you, then maybe you don't want to be a billionaire. Right? Anyway, so this is on the left side. The 80-20 rectangle says, okay, 20% your skills and intelligence is just 20% of your success. The rest 80% comes from your attitude and the awareness that you grow with, right? And this is a constant learning. You cannot relax at any point in time thinking I have learned everything, I'm aware of everything, because the surrounding keeps changing. The interest keeps changing. The goals keep changing, right? And when you get into the professional world, fortunately or unfortunately, the companies you work for keeps changing. The culture keeps changing, and so attitude and awareness is the major contributor to your success when you are in this corporate world, or even outside of corporate. When you are staying in hostel or any of the surroundings, your attitude and awareness is what people drags towards you, or you know, none of my friends would want to influence me by saying, oh, you are good at this, unless I reciprocate that. And so uh, attitude and awareness plays a big role in success. That is the 80%. Skills through education and intelligence developed is definitely 20% of what you face in real life. Now, my most favorite one is this inner circle. This is debatable in terms of, you might end up taking a negative perspective of this, saying, okay, inner circle means developing an closed inner circle and basically groupism. That's not the case here. The idea behind the inner circle is, for me, of course, is create that inner circles, be surrounded by people who can back for you, who have your backs, basically, right? People who can clone you in your absence, people who can do the same thing that you can do, or are at least capable of doing the same thing that you can do. They can represent you in front of your parents, in front of somebody else. I'm not talking about doing this proxy in the class, right? But then I'm talking about proxying in the terms of in terms of capabilities, skills, and attitude and awareness and other things. They can represent you, right? You need to have that inner circle developed. When do you develop that? It's again a constant process, but then the best ones are developed during your college days, your university days. Now, I'm going to say a contradictory one here, but then I find that surrounding, if I am in the center of the circle and then I'm surrounded by people, there's maximum similar like-minded people, like they have similar exposure that as I do. They have similar skill set and maybe different skill set, but then they are expert in different areas. But then if the value for those surrounding people is exactly same as me, then the maximum number I can see in my inner circle is 6 around me. That is total number 7, including me. Now, I learned this hard way. So there was this conference happening. There were 9 people in the conference room. I was traveling to California at that time from India. In the room were all intelligent people who are trying to figure out what do we do next as a project and things like that. So during those discussions, there is a program manager who comes up with food for everybody and things like that. And we had the food. And during the break time, I said, okay, let me bring water for everybody. And I went to the refrigerator in the cafeteria. That's free water bottles for everybody. So I tried to grab those water bottles for each individual. There were 9, including me. And then all these water bottles are symmetric, right? And I tried to hold it like this, pack it in my hand, and then bring that together. When I came back to the room, I realized that I have total 7. I could not have 9. I could not have 8 without dropping them on the floor. And then for that whole exercise of the workshop, I was thinking why it was 7. I kept thinking and missed almost all the conversation about the project. And people noticed that I was silent. And in the end, when the conference ends, I ask people to stay. And I go to the board and try to explain this why I could not carry 2 extra bottles. I could carry only 7. Right. Again, I leave that as an exercise to the mathematics students, and you prove that why that inner circle is if you are in the center, there are only 6 people that can surround you in a perfect circle that I'm talking about here. There can be more. Those at times, those inner circle people in the inner circle get replaced because once it is constant and everybody is equal and everybody has similar expertise and all that, if you want to learn newer things, you have to bring somebody in the inner circle, and maybe some people will go out of that inner circle from another inner circle. This is my favorite one. This is an important one. I hope my explanation helped you learn some bit in here in shaping myself. All right, this is again the same thing that I talked through. This is just a literature around that. One thing important here is it is okay to fail. It is okay to fail multiple times. This comes as part of behavior. The moment I get agitated after a failure, I have no way to go. It is okay to share, your strengths and weaknesses. One thing I keep hearing in almost every interviews that you go to, be it for a job, be it for some kind of academics, you will face this question. One of the questions is, what is your strength? What is your weakness? It is so difficult especially during the teen and adulthood. It is so difficult to share my weakness with my friends unless they end up sharing one, right? But then when you grow and get into the corporate world, when people ask the same question, maybe if the number of weaknesses that come to your mind is 5, the number of strength that comes to your mind is only 2. That shrinks. The number of strengths shrinks when you are asked this question when you are actually in the corporate world and working somewhere. Now, why is that so? It's because we open up. We start to open up when we are going, into this ocean of corporate world. And I would request each one of you to write down your strength and weaknesses and see how many you can write. And definitely, if you don't share this, strengths are something that your friends recognize. I can keep bragging about myself, saying, "Oh, I'm good at this, I'm good at that," but then that has to be stamped, and the only friends and surrounding can stamp that, right? Weaknesses is something that only you can share. Even though other people will recognize your weakness, they will not upfront tell you that you're bad at this, right? It's not considered good to say you're bad at this in a behavioral science as well. And so it's you who has to share the weaknesses. Definitely share that with the inner circle. Definitely share that with more people that you face. And again, once you share the failure scenarios, once you share your weaknesses, maybe your friends can help you overcome that weakness. Maybe your mentor can help you overcome that weaknesses. Okay? So this is what shaping was talking about. Now, I hope there were, along the lines that stories I shared, there were some learnings about being social. Again, I was not here to talk about Facebook. I was not here to talk about Twitter. These are tools you can use to become more social. But then being more social doesn't mean, just go after the rewards of checking, oh, somebody liked my post and things like that. It's about spreading that wisdom that you have, spreading the awareness that you have. And one of the things that I have learned over a period of time, that sharing is one of the key social behaviors, sharing your knowledge, experience, and with people. And those people may not necessarily be of your age. They may be elder, they may be younger, and keep sharing. One thing I realized early on was, when I was doing a certification course, I needed to rehearse, before I appear for the final exam. So I joined a forum wherein they are talking about that topic. People are sharing their problem. Oh, I'm facing this challenge, when I'm doing this course. And I became the one who used to respond. And 50 or more % of that response used to be wrong, actually, right? That's when somebody realizes and says, oh, this is wrong. This is the correct way of doing things. And then that I incorporate in my own thing. And now I know more, right? So it is one of the good practices to kind of rehearse yourself and talk to, your surrounding and say, this is what I know, and maybe verify that when somebody says disagrees or agrees, asking why are you disagreeing or agreeing, maybe incorporate that back. That is your learning, right? That is how you grow your knowledge itself. So sharing it is the most critical part of, being social. So share your knowledge. Now, there are different choices that you are given during your every phase of your life, mostly corporate. But then now is the time when people start talking about spiritual and mental and physical that I laid out in the square of life. Now, passion versus purpose. This becomes a conversation. Do I follow my passion, or do I find a purpose? Right? Uh, Passion is only about your life. When you say that, do I follow this passion, you are talking about yourself only. And it is considered in today's way a little bit selfish if you keep talking about yourself only. And the purpose is something that you do for others. Basically, it is for others' life. Finding a purpose, in my view, is important. While definitely you find your passion, but then finding a purpose is more important. And that is one of the special traits of being social. Most often this is seen in the people who are doing services, like, for example, restaurant businesses, right? Barbershops. Those are the people who, and by the way, those are the people who, if you are introvert, you don't want to open up, go talk to those people who are serving in the restaurant. Go often to the restaurant, go often for a haircut, and strike a conversation with those people. Those are the people who are really good at talking and kind of reflecting themselves onto you. And so you will end up adhering that behavior or adopting that behavior. Okay, moving on. Motivation versus discipline. It is okay to be motivated. I don't know. Being motivated is good or bad, but then definitely it is. I have experienced that as a good trait. However, that's not the end of the world, right? Uh, it's of no use. Motivation is of no use if you don't follow a discipline. Similar to, these two are saying essentially the same thing: goal and behavior, goal versus behavior. Setting a goal is important, but then what do you do to achieve that goal? Just saying that, oh, I'll get 100, I target to get 100 out of 100 in mathematics. That's your goal. But then there are so many external factors that will influence that result. Your teachers may find that, nah, you're not worth 100 out of 100, right? So you can't control that. What you can control, though, is the steps to, go towards that goal. And during that each steps, what is the behavior you are adapting to, right? So that's important. It is okay to be true and not being accurate. Accuracy is a collection of multiple truths. So even if I'm not accurate, it is okay for me to be true, at least in one of the choices is true. Then I will end up sharing that. So it is important to speak up. If you have at least one, or even if you are not accurate, just speak up when you feel that you're true, right? But then at the same time, don't invest in being always right. Invest in being true, right? That's what it is. Gratitude, be thankful. Be definitely thankful to the surrounding you're living in. Be thankful to your teachers, mentors, influencers, your friends, your family, and everybody. Practice this in life. Keep saying that, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my teacher. And you will see the change in you. Definitely. I have seen that change in me by saying thank you, regardless of who that person. We shy away from using these words, sorry, thank you, and stuff like that. But then if we start using that often in our not without a purpose, but then if there is a purpose, you start sharing and saying those words, you will see the change in you. You become more, that is when people start valuing you. Encourage other people. As I said, don't start just looking for you being encouraged by others, but then you have to encourage, you have to recognize the strength of your friend and, compliment them for what they are good at. Instant gratification is something that this mobile or internet world brought to the millennials, which is, I want to see the result now, right? If I take an action, I want to see the result right now. No, results follow over a period of time. After constant failures, you someday realize that I'm successful in what I'm doing, and you continue to do that. Achieving success is important, but then retaining, improving on that success is more important to me. So with that, I'll close. This was my probably the last slide. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have this one-on-one conversation with you all and kind of share my ideas about being social and how did I become social. And I wish you all the best.